welcome to the show. I am joined today by Declan Shalvey. You know him from his art and writing, and just recently, Thundercats #1 dropped from Dynamite, and you're kind of shepherding the entire Thundercats universe with this series. Congratulations, by the way, on its monumental success. First issue sold crazy great numbers, and good word of mouth. People are really excited about it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I wrote the first issue long before any of this kind of came out, so in a way, I'm glad. I might have totally panicked otherwise. But yeah, it's insane. It's weird, like, to be in comics this long and been drawing so many comics, and like something I've written,
Yeah,
to be selling like this is crazy.
sure. Yeah. Well, because you're no slouch. Your art is just phenomenal. I remember I was put on your stuff. I think I want to say it was Punisher, but it wasn't until Moon Knight that I was like, oh, this guy's got something special going on. And
thanks. I mean, that was kind of the book that definitely put. I was around for, I think it's my 4th year at Marvel. But,
yeah,
it was definitely the thing that put me on the map for a lot of people, for sure.
absolutely. I want to say it was it was the one where there's the guy in the basement with the mushrooms, and I was like, oh man.
Oh, okay, that one. Everyone normally points out the fight issue where he's fighting everybody up the issue 5. Everyone. I love that one. Everyone loves that. But yeah, that mushroom one nearly killed me. That was so much work. I still have PTSD from it.
Oh well, sorry to bring it up, but it was such a good issue. I remember being like, wow, like such a great like look and feel and atmosphere. Really sold the book. But anyway, so yeah, Thundercats. Man, I have to know like how this began. But before we do, did you actually like? It seems from reading the first issue that there's a lot of the show in this. Like it feels, I could hear the voice actors in my head when I was reading it. It's just it felt incredibly authentic. Where did your relationship with Thundercats first begin? Did you watch it when you were a kid at any point?
I know. I mean, I remember the first time I saw the intro. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't remember the show that well as much as I remember watching it.
Yeah,
because I've been pretty young. Was it just the 40th anniversary or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would have been 2 when it came out. I remember being older than 2.
Definitely.
But like in Ireland, we might get things 5 years later, and as far as we know, it was current, back then.
Definitely.
And the way we got things. So I was older, but I remember just like it blowing my mind. Because I was all into Transformers and He-Man and all this stuff at the time. But I do remember, I don't know, like Thundercats has more of an edge to it somehow. But I remembered loving it. I didn't remember specifics. So I went back and I watched some of the show, and there was a lot of stuff I just didn't remember. So I think I have a good sense of like knowing what feels Thundercats without getting bogged down in a lot of the lore.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of it, and
yeah,
try to do a book that like is, it's for both. It's for new readers and old readers too. So there's a fine line there of straddling the, here's something that you as a new reader don't know what this is. You as an older reader do, but I can't, it's trying to make a book for two different audiences is tough enough. But I feel because I have a great affection for it, that's a positive, and having a huge memory problem is also helpful.
I think so, because you're not going to get bogged down, like you said. I remember watching the show as a kid in like probably syndication, and I like just dropped in, dropped out the way that I think they expected, because they're like, back then they were making cartoons and like huge, like we need to get 100 episodes and throw it out every single day. But it was the intro and it's superb animation. And one of our video stores, before the crash of the video store, it was going out of business. And I remember buying, like when I was a teenager, this VHS tape that was the first episode, and it was like a movie. And finally watching it, I'm like, oh, that's what it's all about. Like I didn't know who shot. Like I was like, oh, that's who the ghost is in the opening of the credits. Like I never knew any of this lore. I was like, honestly, like I was surprised by watching the plot. I'm like, Lion-O's a man boy. Like all these things fell into place. Where I was like, oh,
I had forgotten that myself till I was looking at the show. I was like, oh yeah. Once I remembered it, but up till then I'd kind of forgotten it, because there's a lot of it's a lot of things. Like it's part Superman,
Yep.
it's part Shazam,
Yes.
it's part X-Men.
Hmm.
It's it's a lot of different superhero-y things in a not superhero show.
Right.
You know, yeah, it's a weird mixed bag of stuff, but weirdly, it was all class.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's inherently weird. They're cat people. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh, yeah, no, and they're all different types of cat people. Yeah, no, it is bizarre when you try to sell it on paper. When you're just like, oh, here's what
Hmm.
Thundercats is, and describe it to someone who's never seen it before. It's like you need to just look at it.
Yeah, I was talking to an artist who was doing a cover or something, and I said they're in their 20s, and I said, "Do you know what a Thundercat is?" And she was like, "No." I was like, "Well, they're a little bit thunder and they're a little bit cat, and yeah, actually, I don't really know how to explain this."
Yeah. Did you when you were approaching like this world and like reintroducing it, um, was there like how many iterations of this world did you go through before you were like, I think I'm gonna try and like straddle the line between the animated series, like because it could have been like the way that they did the Master of the Universe cartoon on Netflix, where it's like, oh, it's like
Mhm.
kind of a continuation of that old show. Like you could have been like, oh, it's Thundercats, but 5 years later or something like that.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to do that. I knew that there was a new take in 2011. I knew
Yeah, yeah.
there was a more recent kind of anime inspired, for like no, it's not fair. It wasn't anime. It was more um
It has
Steven
kind of like an
Universe-y. It
Eastern
looked.
look to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but also Thundercats actually did have an anime influence, the original one.
Well,
So
that
it's like
opening credit, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. But the more cutesy kind of a version. But I hadn't seen any of them. I only saw the original one as a kid.
Hmm.
So when this came up, I decided to just not look at anything other than the source material.
Cool.
I had done that with Alien last year, where I basically, I rewatched the first two movies,
Hmm.
one of the recent ones, and I didn't read any of the comics, just because I didn't want to have ideas and then um, have them in competition with all these other things, especially with the 2001 reboot, because from what I hear, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And I would have been worried if I watched it, I'd be like I'd either be trying to avoid things that were similar, or I'd be too conscious of it. I just
Exactly.
went back to the source material and I used my ignorance as a plus.
Yeah.
Um, and I just went back to the source, and I wasn't interested in doing a comic of the cartoon. Um,
Right.
and I don't even think that was what was pitched to me. I think it was Nate Cosby as the editor, and I think it was from the beginning. What the idea was to do a new iteration of the Thundercats,
Mm.
and you know, it be somewhere in between the original and that new 2011 version.
Right.
Now, like I said, I didn't watch it, but I looked at a lot of material. And I'm like, actually, that is really cool. Like I would like to do that,
Yeah.
but I think the thing was so go somewhere in between. So if you look at the designs that Drew Moss has done, I feel like they're a fairly good signifier of what the series is,
Oh
which
yeah.
is heavily, heavily inspired by the original series, but
Mhm.
just tweaked like 20%.
Right. It is not a drastic shift from what you keep what works, right? And it's like
Yes, yeah.
there is a
Like
reason why it's so iconic. People
yeah. Well, when I went
like
back,
these images.
I watched a good chunk of the original episodes, and I felt it just kind of it gets pretty bonkers pretty fast,
Yes.
and the more interesting things to me were like was really like the idea of, like I said, but like we didn't know Lionel was a boy
Child.
in a man's body, and I'm like, that's really interesting. Why isn't there more about this? And also, you know, he was a child when he went on the ship, and now he's off. Now that they've landed, all the relationships have changed.
Right.
You know, his relationship with Panther. I'd say the only relationship that's kind of similar is maybe Chitara, but
Mm.
everybody else, it's quite different. And for me, my pitch to Dynamite and to Warner Brothers was very much leaning on the relationships aspect of it. There's always going to be kick out, like there's going to be fighting and people are going to
Sure.
punch each other, but the core of it was more the relationships than it was the lore. The lore is something I want to play with, but in a much looser way. I think some fans have kind of gone like, "Oh, is it going to be? Were you going to see this? Were you going to see that?" And I'm kind of trying to go like, "No, what you've seen before, and it's great."
Yeah.
And I'll definitely like pull from things here and there, but you know, I'm not telegraphing the show that this series based on what was in the show.
Right.
This is going to be its own new thing, but it's going to very much, if you're an old fan, there's things you're going to see and recognize, and so you'll get that kind of satisfaction. But I want to also satisfy you in ways you can't expect. That sounds terrible. Not a sex worker. I give you stuff that you're not going to see coming, I think is better. I think it's a very short term satisfaction to just see the thing that you like.
Yeah.
I think it's more rewarding to like give you something that you're not expecting. So I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to straddle those two fences,
Exactly. Do you there was a very suggestive entire sentence that you just shared with us, but
everything I say could be
everything you said
taken
was
yeah.
But did you ever buy the toys, and if so, do you have any left over?
I did. I had a Lino,
Mm-hmm.
but my sister broke him.
Oh.
She threw him down the stairs and his head came off.
Yep.
And I brought it up to her recently, but she reminded me that I had actually accidentally burnt one of her toy dogs. But that was an accident. I didn't mean to do that.
That was an accident. Sure.
Yeah. I left it by the fire, but the thing was made of like a plastic, so it just melted. That wasn't my fault. She deliberately threw my Lino down the stairs. That is a completely different matter. But anyway, so yeah, the trauma of that, I remember I had a Sword of Omens, and I had a Mumra as well.
Nice.
And I had him so long that I lost all the bits of him.
Oh, his tassels, yeah.
Yeah, with all that was, and in his headpiece, it was like the bigger Mumra and the headpiece. So I basically had a bald Mumra.
Yep.
For I don't even remember if he's bald in the show. I don't think you ever see him without it. But
yeah.
For me, he's bald because I had him longer with no headpiece. But so yes, no, and they're in a cupboard somewhere in my mum's old house. So God knows what happened to them.
Oh sure.
I do currently though have I was at a convention the end of last year, and somebody gave me a where is it?
Nice.
There we go. And how does it work? I had it before. There we go.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that this is from the 2011 show, I think, but look.
Still holds up. It's it's gorgeous.
Reference, for the covers.
Totally.
But so I was delighted. I had to take it to security then afterwards.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Isn't it incredible? Like, I associate, because I think that Thundercats is one of those franchises that everyone kind of like is aware of, but isn't as intimately like fanatical about. Like they know it, and I think it has a lot to do with the logo. I think the logo of the Thundercats, it is as iconic as like the Ghostbusters insignia.
It is.
No,
you're dead right. I think it's one of the coolest logos ever designed. Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's like that sells the show, and you don't even see a single moment in the
like if you look back at the show as an adult, you're like, okay, this isn't as like amazing as I remember. But it was cool. It was so cool. The designs were cool. Like I said, this is just one of the coolest things you could ever see. I know I'm there's a lot to be said for like incredible design.
Yes.
To just like lap up, like kids like just lap it up like cocaine, I assume.
Yeah,
but no, I'm with you there.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Alien because I'm such a fan of Alien, and you've done such a great job with it, taking over from the previous guard, especially. And I know there have been other issues since then, but the Alien Annual that you did with Danny Earls is such a great book, and it was such an interesting idea, and one of those things where I'm like, when good artists love to do that challenge where they're like, let's do a book with no dialogue in it. Let's just tell the story through the art. And as an artist, I assume that was
true
like
story. Just we forgot to letter it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sure. But as an artist,
I appreciate that because it was actually the editor's idea, which was great. Normally, that's the thing where like the creator would be like, "I'd love to do this," and the editor's like, "Yeah, calm down." But no, it was the editor's idea. And once she suggested it, I'm like, jumped all over it. It's people like it was easier to write from like physically because I didn't have to write all the dialogue, but it's very hard. I mean, I was just talking to somebody today actually about how hard it is to do to just rely on visual storytelling.
Yeah,
you can use dialogue to pave over a lot of cracks,
definitely,
but you don't have it in silent story. And Danny's just like new on the scene, and like it's a big challenge for him, but he really jumped on it. Uh, and yeah, to not have Andrea on an issue,
Mm-hmm.
if it was going to not have Andrea for an issue, then all the better to have somebody who could really jump on and do something different with the annual. And it was really cool to do a story within the larger story.
Yeah.
That also has its own thing. So you could read it on its own and it wouldn't matter. But if you've been reading the series previously, there's more to it. And if you read the following series, it pays off too. So that was really satisfying, because Marvel offered it basically as a 10-issue series. And I got to, like, I had the foresight to know that I could play with that stuff. So that was very sad. Like the last issue came out yesterday, the same day as Thundercats.
Yeah,
it feels like a weird, I don't know, it's a statement or something. But it's very satisfying to get that last issue out, especially the previous issue, because there was like a side story that I was writing and drawing, and people kind of see how it connects by the end. So it's great when you're sewing things and people are going, "What the hell is this about?" I'm like, just give it a bit of time, and then it'll slowly come together. And yeah, so it's really interesting to have the satisfaction of finishing one big story and then starting another one on the same day.
Oh, definitely, yeah, and with such a drastically different amount of material. I was wondering,
Which is why I'm glad you liked Thundercats, because it's like Alien would be much more how I would like naturally write something. It's more in the tone,
right?
And dialogue, whereas Thundercats is like it's to me it's like writing like 90s X-Men. It's big and bold, and it's more melodrama, and
yes,
the dialogue as well that was a tough one. I wasn't sure if I should, like, I don't know, I felt like modernizing it would have felt weird,
right, coming out of their mouths. Like if someone said like, "Oh, damn it," you're just kind of like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going full,
cheesecake, like cheesy 80s.
Yeah. But I think it would be crass to ignore where it came from. But I think I think like I can just dial it down again. I'm dialing that down 20% maybe, so I'm keeping it there. But like, and also reading it is a different experience to hearing it too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I hope I mean, you can never know you've hit a balance until people actually read it. So if you think it worked, then
oh yeah,
it's all right.
No, I think it works. I'm wondering when you obviously as an accomplished artist and a established accomplished writer, do you ever write something and think, I kind of wish I was drawing this too?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like, no, yeah, all the time, because I've gotten to write Daredevil a couple of times, like in short stories. I'm like, oh, should I draw this? When I started on Alien, I feel like I know a book is working when I get that urge. Oh, well, he's like, I'd like to draw this.
Yeah.
I did a short story with Daredevil last year with Alex Linz, and he did a great job. Part of me wanted to draw that too. And when I was starting Alien, like, it's all in the snow planet and everything, I was like, oh man, this would be really cool to draw. But then I see all the work that Andrea Briccardo puts into it. I was like, nope. Okay. I really like Alien, but I'm not so dedicated to put all that work into it. And Andrea is like an expert. He knew all the detail, all the costumes. It would have taken me so much work to like do all that research to get it right.
Yeah.
In your mind, you're thinking it would be really good to work on this. But as a kind of as a consolation prize, I gave myself the storyline in the new arc, Descendant, the second miniseries. Like, I'm drawing scenes in that because that's my way of going, okay, I don't get to draw a whole Alien story, but I get to like get a little bit of it. So I feel like I got to write and draw a book without actually having to do like all of 99% of the work.
Yeah. That's great.
And Thundercats too. Like, I mean, I'm getting to draw the covers, which for me is like I'm getting to like do the fun stuff without having to do all the work again. But but when I was writing it, I had a tone. I mean, I don't think it was Drew. No, Drew was attached, but by the time I was writing it, but from when Nate talked to me, I definitely had a rough idea of what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And Drew matched that great. Like, Drew does great superhero-y action, but he also does really good like character expressions, and he's really like, and like his mum, the scenes with Mumra and the Black Pyramids, like he does some really great moody stuff, like
Yeah.
his washes, the grey washes and his skies, lovely. Like he's hitting all the marks. There's a world in which I'd get to draw an issue of it, and it would be I'd enjoy the hell out of it. But
Totally.
Drew's doing so good. Where I'm satisfied doing the covers. I get to scratch that. I get to scratch that itch.
Yeah, that's great. I was also interested by the that X-Men Infinity comic that you did.
Oh yeah,
and how you got to switch up formats a bit in a big bad way, where it was the closest to, I guess, what I would call like a webtoons style comic, where you're not limited by the format until, of course, like they print it and change it, but you're essentially doing like like an endless scrolling comic. Was that fun, freeing, or challenging, or all three?
It was all three, and also a massive pain in the arse.
Really?
Well, no, I mean, as in, because I don't draw, I draw on paper. So
yes. So
how do you? Exactly. There was a big puzzle to solve at the beginning. But John Hickman was the writer, and he definitely had some ideas of how it could work. And then I had to sit down and figure out how that would work practically, how it would work for me, how would I be able... Well, I was adamant that it be printed. I was like, I was totally cool with the concept and the experiment. You know, I've done... Normally now I would say I wouldn't have any interest in doing it, but I felt, I'm like 10 or so years into this career at Marvel, and it's not often you get paid to experiment.
Right.
So I figured, you know what, fuck, and it was to work with John and to get to draw, and also get to draw Wolverine.
Right.
Win-win, The only downside was I'd have to like figure out a way, like I know what my strengths are, and it's generally horizontal storytelling is what I do.
Too.
I work across a page, not down a page. And there was, in a way, there was no limitations, but also there was very much limitations. It was very limited in one way, unlimited in another. So I had to figure out a way to make it work on the page. And because I was coloring myself, I was then able to basically stitch the art together for the kind of connected bits, and maybe do paint overs where it was needed. So I was coloring myself by then, which ended up being very, very helpful, because especially the first chapter was a bit of a mess, like trying to do this and make that work, and then notes back from Marvel. I mean, it was a big experiment. And it was cool. It was fun. And I did a second one afterwards, actually, that didn't get printed. But, and by then I think I was done. I think
you're like, I don't want to do that again.
I enjoyed it for what it was, but I knew I wanted to get back to like the stuff that I like doing, which is like, which was Old Dog. Like I like, I like bigger, more broader moments and a certain kind of tight storytelling, whereas this is very much a set structure that I did work within, and that was fine. But the longer I did it, the more I would have grown to like get really frustrated with it.
Are you satisfied with how it translates from the vertical image to the printed page? Like, do you feel like you accomplished what you wanted to do with that?
Yeah, definitely. Because I designed it to work for both.
Right.
I mean, I didn't do it as a scrolling thing and then hack it up.
Yeah, because that's what I'm worried about whenever I see printed, like webtoon style, like scrolling comics. Is like, it's not gonna work. I remember I did a comic like many years ago, and it was a web comic, and then it was like, oh well, we should put it on webtoons, and I immediately tried to like make it work, and I'm like, I took the first page and just threw it away. I'm like, nope. It's impossible to translate into vertical, like scrolling as a comic book.
Yeah, I mean, there's some way you can do it, but it just doesn't feel.
Yeah,
it doesn't read in a smooth way. You're collaging storytelling choices into, you're re-editing with no real sense of connection.
Yeah,
which look can be done, and some people don't give a toss. They'll read it anyway.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like a great reading experience if you have a more kind of developed sense of reading comics.
Exactly.
But no, I was very satisfied because it actually was the other way around. I designed it so that
It would be printed.
It worked in a printed. In a weird way. I mean, there's a lot of pages that are just 2 columns, so it's definitely going to be unusual for people to read. But since it's like 48 or 50, whatever page it was in that format, I think you'll read it like once you adapt to it. After 3 pages, you adapt to that format, you're in. So it's just a different way of reading a comic. It's interesting, but because of that, I was then able to take those and make them work into a vertical format. So I worked with both in mind, and it worked in both ways. I think anyway. I was quite happy. I managed to like hit both objectives. I think I wrote a story for X-Men Unlimited, Banshee story for Nick Roach, and I kind of just wrote it like a regular script, and he had to kind of figure it out. It's what I did was very specific way of doing the vertical format, and I really wouldn't want to do it any other way. But it is a weird way of working where space is completely different. And I also think I think certain action storytelling is the best format for it.
Definitely.
Or repetitive talking heads.
Sure.
It's a very good format for it.
Definitely.
And I don't really want to draw repetitive talking heads. No. But if you want to do that, I think it's a very good format. But I'm somewhere, and I want to do some in between. Those are the 2 ends that I don't want to do. So like I said, I enjoyed it for what it was, and I did a second one, and the door was open to do more. But I was like, I enjoyed that, but I want to stretch those other muscles again.
Fair. And you got to do the experiment. You got to play, and try it out.
And it was challenging, and sometimes doing stuff you don't want to do. No, I don't mean don't want to do, but doing things outside of your wheelhouse sharpens your blades, as it were. Not sure that really works, but it reminds you of the things that like challenge you and don't challenge you. And like I said, it was nice to be paid to experiment for a little while. So it was a worthy experiment, and I have no regrets. It was really cool.
Yeah. Do you find in your Thundercats work?
Sorry, just one more thing.
Oh yeah.
I worked with John on the first one, and then I wrote and drew the second one myself.
That's right.
And I did something different with that, whereas everything else I write and draw, I write a full script and then I draw it. Yeah. With that, because of the format, I actually wrote it in the layouts, which is different.
Yeah.
So some people do that all the time. I'm not. I don't. I feel like I really need to workshop things in the script.
Sure.
But with that format, I noticed, because of the shape and the format, it was actually better to block it out in the layouts first.
Yeah.
And then write it afterwards, which again, it's not how I do things normally, but it actually was an interesting way to do it that I enjoyed. I'm not going to keep doing it, but I did really enjoy that, and it was nice to work that way for a project like that. Sorry, I just popped into my head.
Oh yeah,
I'd forgotten about that.
Do you feel like the second one was more successful because you did the different format, like because you actually like adapted your approach to the format?
Yeah, maybe because it wasn't. John had written it in a way that would work. Like, I mean, I think the AIM agents falling out of space.
Yeah, I was thinking of it in terms of vertical space. Yeah.
So, but I think he really, but actually, to be honest, he really only wrote the first 2. The other 2 chapters of that, he just said, but they were, and I just wrote. So
went with it.
I think he helped figure out what it could be, and set the tone, I guess, and then just let me off afterwards. So really, so I was basically kind of doing it. By the end of it, I was breaking it down myself, and there's a couple of jokes in there that are mine, and so then it actually was very naturally went into the second one. So, but at the same time, him setting the tone probably really helped me. If I'd done it just on my own, it might have been a bit different. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm not sure.
Fair. Do you
who's better, me or Jonathan Hickman?
Right. I wonder. I mean, like, honestly, it's a dead heat for me. I'm loving what you're writing, and thanks, I love what you're putting out there. You mentioned that Daredevil was a character that you would really like to see your spin on.
Have I
And
ever said that? I don't
I,
think I've ever said that.
I think you said it earlier in the interview.
I think I say it every single interview I've ever done.
And I guess just it's one of those like timing things. It's just because I imagine it's not because no one wants you to do Daredevil. It's just because it's just the timing hasn't been right.
Yeah, no, there was one time I think Axel Alonso asked
Mhm.
what I'd like to do, and I said Daredevil, and he said, "Sure, let's have a talk with the Daredevil editor and see what." And then he got fired like the next day or something. So that was that. Um, and I had a pitch with Marvel, but it kind of hit a wall somewhere.
Mhm.
It's hard to know what happened with it, but I think I'm going to try and go back to that. I'd really, I think I had an idea that I thought was strong
Mhm.
and was very personal to me as well, and I'd really like to do that if I could. But um, yeah, we'll see. I think Marvel would be totally fine for me to like draw Daredevil, or I've written some short stories too. But I mean, Daredevil's a weird one where they get a guy who's going to run that book
For a
for
while.
years,
Yeah.
and I don't want to I don't want to just write Daredevil. I do want to draw it too,
Yeah.
and I don't want to just draw it. I want to write it too. So I think it'd be finding some kind of like mini series would be the way to do it. I think,
Yeah.
but no one specifically asked. So
Right.
I'm just going to keep putting it out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to
I
be very thirsty, as the kids say. I think that's what
Yes.
I'm being right now.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
think that's fair. Yeah. The
but
I would love to see a like an Avengers Twilight-esque kind of like separate or what was that Bendis series that he did End of Days where it was like
oh
that just
yeah,
that
something
independent
like that
series
would be
over
cool.
there. Yeah, I'd love to see
Yeah,
that.
I'd really like to do something like that. But look, but then I'm also doing my own stuff too,
Oh
so it's
yeah.
finding the timing is definitely a thing. But like it is like definitely bucket list is to do like a Daredevil project like that. I
Yeah.
basically just want to like do my Frank Miller homages. You know,
Mhm. I would love to see it. Uh with respect to building up
like don't tell
the
me, man. Tell Marvel. Tell
I'm
them.
trying.
Tell
I
them
mean,
to
listen,
blast their
we're putting it
mouths.
out there. It's out there,
Yeah.
folks. I mean, like just write your congressman. But what is it about Daredevil that you find so attractive in terms of like as a character, as a design, as a like?
Well, I mean, I get the design's great. He's a great silhouette, like
Yeah.
Batman. It's all the New York architecture, all the
Hmm.
like. You know, I'd love to do a Spider-Man book someday, but I know
Yeah.
with Daredevil, I would draw like all the old nooks and crannies and Hell's Kitchens and pipes and things like that.
Yeah.
Shadows. It just leans into all the aesthetic qualities I really like.
Right.
There's definitely something as regards the Irish Catholic background.
Sure.
Um, uh, yeah, just all the aesthetics hit my buttons, and also like all the morality tales of it all, and the guilt and the I relate.
You relate quite
I
a
relate
bit to him.
a lot, yeah.
That's actually that would be kind of cool. I haven't really thought there has not really been an Irish Catholic creative force behind Matt, despite his origins in a long time, if ever. That's funny.
Well, I mean, I think Chip did some stuff with the Catholicism and stuff,
Oh, sure.
and
No, I just mean like there's never been an Irish Catholic like creator working on the character.
yeah, representation matters. All
That's what I'm
right.
saying, right?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, look, I wouldn't say that's but it's definitely a part of it. Like, I definitely
Totally.
like whenever there's like Irish Catholic stuff, American focused. I mean, it's actually, to be fair, that's through the story of the Irish immigrant, which is
Hmm.
not my like. I mean, I'm not an Irish immigrant. I'm from this bog country, but I've always loved it. I've always kind of connected with that in any kind of fiction, be it like mob stories and things like that.
Hmm.
Also, sorry, the other thing about Daredevil is it's a crime book,
Yeah.
um, but with none of the limitations of a crime book that like it has to be grounded all the time. You can do very bombastic things, so you get
Yes.
to do cool shadows and people and weird looking mobsters, but at the same time you get to do like somebody swinging across a building and
Yep.
like so it's got it. Yeah, it's got it all.
Yeah.
God damn it, I love Daredevil.
Well, so what is your like end goal for Thundercats? Just kind of bringing it full circle, and so we
Mhm.
don't just uh, lament the lack of Daredevil in our lives for the now. But with respect to Thundercats, like, so you're building out this world. How far in this world, in this universe, are you planning to go? Like, is it going to be like, limited to Third Earth, or are we going to go even further? Or is that telling tales out of school, and we gotta wait and see?
No, I would say it's limited to Third Earth. Like I've been saying to people, it's like Thundercats injected with Lost in Space.
You're right. Okay.
They're basically their conundrum now is, do they stay or do they try and go find somewhere better? But like, spoilers, they're going to be on Third Earth because that's the concept of the book. But there will be, I would say, there will be ties back to Thundera. Without getting into that too much, but I have a kind of I have a certain wider arc. I have basically 3 arcs figured out.
Okay.
Where I know what they are. That's what was offered to me. So I haven't planned any further than that, but I definitely have ideas for where it could go after. To be fair, when I was offered this, nobody knew
how it was going
to blow up like this. So
yeah,
I have a strong suspicion. I mean, I know the book is ongoing, but you know what it's like these days. How many books do you know that can actually be ongoing?
Yeah.
If the book's selling this well, I feel like they definitely will be able to keep going. Also, the concept, there's so much you can do with it,
Oh yeah.
I think what I've done is worked out the first few months on Third Earth, which is basically not even the first episode of the animated series, So there's so much you can do with it afterwards. So there's some very overall things I feel like I could go. My main thing is just sticking to the landings of each arc, and see if people like reading it. And just giving Drew so much cool things to draw. Like I'm really just trying to entertain him a lot of the time. Just let him just do cool. Like, he's so good at doing like bombastic action and moody storytelling and like atmospheric background, environments, and like he's able. Not everybody could do this book,
right?
But he's killing it. And I just basically want to entertain him every month.
Fair.
But that's where I'm at. I definitely know I know what I'm able to get to achieve. And beyond that, I don't know, because that's up to Dynamite really. But I definitely have ideas of where to go afterwards. But like, we're talking like a whole over a year's worth of stuff I already have locked in.
Cool. That's great, man. Well, I think it's a great place for us to wrap up. I want to thank everybody for watching, but more importantly, let's get Declan Shalvey a Daredevil book. Come on, everybody, let's go. But I'm really excited to see where Thundercats goes, and of course to see more from you in the future. Huge fan of your work, man. You just killing it
so
out
much,
there. And thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you guys next. Oh, is there a website that people can go to that they can check out more Declan Shalvey?
There is indeed. There is. Twitter is at Declan Shalvey, all one word. Same with Instagram. And also my website, declanshalvey.com. You can sign up to my newsletter that I post every 2 weeks, where I'll talk about what I'm working on, but I have to have code names. So I can talk about what I'm working on without revealing what I'm working on.
Right.
Sometimes I'll slip in a cover that no one's seen. It's basically a work blog talking about where I am on certain things. And if there's ever like commission things available, it'll all be there. So I'd say sign up to the newsletter.
Sweet.
And I think that's everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, the newsletter is in the comments down below. Click it and check it out, and we'll see you guys next time. So long, everybody.